Well, for more on autism and educating children with ASD, I spoke to Cash Lambert, the author of Waves of Healing, How Surfing Changes the Lives of Children with Autism. And I began by asking Lambert about some of the benefits of surfing for children on the spectrum and also for their families.
And the benefits are as wide as the autism spectrum certainly is. Children say their first words when they surf. Children who may not be receptive to touch, for example, I saw and other people have seen, they are holding volunteers' hands and doing things like that. Some children who have never spoken before are cheering and screaming as they're riding a wave. So being on the beach at an event and watching children surf, there's truly nothing like it. And the benefits are far-ranging. They don't just affect the children who surf; they affect the families. For example, families for the first time have a support group of sorts in which they can meet with other parents who are struggling with the same issues with autism, as well as the siblings too. So someone who has a brother or sister with autism can meet other people at their same age and be able to discuss kind of the challenges with autism.
And that's interesting. You raise this issue of a sense of community because obviously now we have social media, we have more ways to connect. But you now being out in the open, being actually able to experience something like this at the beach, I mean, that must be a very unique experience. And you mentioned parents. What about volunteers? How do they get a better understanding of what this actually means to the children?
Well, it's an overwhelming experience, and I can certainly say that firsthand. For the volunteers, it's extremely unique in that many volunteers who started volunteering at these surf events later went on to pursue college education and further training in special needs, in categories of helping children with autism. So for volunteers, when you show up, it's simply a thing to do. With this organization in particular, it's a very, very large event. They put on very, very large scale events. So you show up with your friends looking to simply volunteer and enjoy the day. And you end up meeting families who, after you take their child surfing, the mother is in tears and hugging you and saying thank you. And the father is asking to take pictures with you and his or her daughter. So for the volunteers, it's an overwhelming experience.
So in your book, Waves of Healing, How Surfing Changes the Lives of Children with Autism, you have a number of stories in that book, from triumph to some heartache. Why was it so important for you to get these stories out there?
It was so important for me to get the stories out there because leading up to the book, I had just been simply volunteering with Surfers for Autism, and I had met so many families who had such life-changing experiences with surfing, and there were stories that truly deserve to be told in Hollywood. You go to the movies and you don't hear such powerful stories as I was hearing on the beach during event days. So I took it upon myself to say somebody should be writing a book about this, and I took on the project. And obviously it's called Waves of Healing, but so many families had such profound experiences, such transformative experiences surfing, that if you wrote a script and gave it to people in Hollywood, they might throw it out. Kids were saying their first words. Families for the first time were able to have friends, and truly a community was born, birthed from surfboards, saltwater, and autism.
Now, in that spirit of transformation, we know that for World Autism Awareness Day for 2019, here's what the United Nations says their strategy is. They said they're going to focus on using assistive technologies to remove the barriers to a full social, economic, and political participation in society, as well as promoting equality, equity, and inclusion. So really setting the stage that by being more inclusive, you really do open the doors to a lot more things for these children. What do you think should be the big takeaway for people who either would like to learn more information about how they can support their children with autism, or, really sort of trying new things?
I would say taking a leap of faith. For all the families that I've met within Surfers for Autism and other organizations that do similar activities, the families were hesitant at first, and certainly you could understand why. Taking your child with autism to surf in big waves at 8 a.m. with a group of volunteers that you never met before is certainly scary. For the families, it's certainly about just continuing to have hope. In this book, a lot of the families who I met before they had experienced surfing, they were at their last rope. They had tried everything, and they had a lot of frustrations and a lot of challenges. And then they just said, "Well, we'll just try surfing. We'll give it a go," and it absolutely changed their lives.